From the Alex Trebek stage at Sony Picture Studios, this is Inside Jeopardy!
There he is, the great Johnny Gilbert on the axe, ushering in yet another episode of Inside Jeopardy, your exclusive and official podcast destination for all things happening in the world of Jeopardy. I'm Michael Davies. Joining me today for our Who Knew 100th episode. Woo! She's been a part of all 100. I haven't. It's producer Sarah Foss.
Well, you know what, Michael? We're part of the team, though. And yes, 100 episodes of Inside Jeopardy. There are little podcasts that could.
Yeah, amazing stuff. And you've done all of them.
I have.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Sarah.
You're welcome.
I'm going to reveal to the Jeopardy public. This is not a paid gig. Inside Jeopardy. It's for either of us. This is. We must be crazy. This is a labor of love.
It really is.
And you've just done such an amazing job with this, along with producer Alexa and producer Carlos. And, gets better all the time. And we've said before, lots of exciting new things next season on Inside Jeopardy and on the show itself. And here's to the next 100, the next 1,000, the next 10,000 episodes of Inside Jeopardy.
I love it. I love this podcast. I love what we do. Looking back over 100 episodes, we announced the first ever Second Chance competition. We've spoke to so many people in the Jeopardy community, including co-head writers Billy Weiss and Michelle Lau. We've had the chance to talk with Johnny Gilbert on the axe a couple of times. We had that TOC exhibition game watch along with Amy and Matt and Matea. So many great champions, so many people who've come here on the pod. Of course, we had our first ever Inside Jeopardy Live, Michael, in New York a little while back. So like you, I'm looking forward to what is ahead, but I'm certainly celebrating what we've accomplished in our first couple of years. And here's to many more ahead. Joining us later on the pod to help us celebrate is none other than host Ken Jennings, because big celebrations for him. We just had his 50th birthday. He's just celebrated yesterday the 20th anniversary of his first appearance on Jeopardy. And, we're wrapping up season 40, so we just want to talk to him about all the great things that have happened for him in the past 20 years, and certainly as our host.
Yeah, and of course, we'll also be highlighting last week's games. But first, a quick look back at a very special This Week in Jeopardy history.
Jerry Harvey, we start with you. What did you put down? Which athlete did you think of? Marion Jones, you are correct. And you add $1. You go to 7,401. Let's go to Julia Lazarus. Did she come up with Marion Jones? She's shaking her head. Why? She was going for somebody else, and I can't figure out who. Gail?
I can't figure out who either.
But somebody named Gail. Every girl named Gail watching the program today is going to be very happy. You lost $37.99. That drops you down to $14,801. Let's go to Ken Jennings. And even $20,000 going into final. Who is Jones? And we will accept that in terms of female athletes. There aren't that many. And you've got $17,201 more for a $37,201 total, and you become the Jeopardy champion.
It was June 2nd, 2004, when Ken Jennings took the stage for the very first time against challengers Julia Lazarus and two-game champion Jerry Harvey. Ken entered final only $1,400 ahead of Julia, who was in second place. He responded correctly with Jones. The clue? She's the first female track and field athlete to win medals in 5 different events at a single Olympics. The category was, of course, the 2000 Olympics. And as you just heard, he was ruled correct. We mentioned this clue on the pod a few weeks ago, and an audience member actually gifted Ken a cross-stitch of that final Jeopardy response. It's now hanging in his dressing room on stage. Ken, of course, went on to make Jeopardy history with his 74 wins, competing in several tournaments after that, including the greatest of all time, where he did retire as the GOAT and is now the host of Jeopardy. Something pretty incredible happened during our tapings just 2 weeks ago. Jerry Lazarus, the reigning champion in Ken's first game, was actually in our audience, and Ken had the chance to catch up with him during the commercial break. Let's take a listen.
Jerry Harvey! Holy cow. This is a Jeopardy champion. Jerry Harvey, you're a 3-game champ, is that right? 2 games. Oh, this is my fault. 2-game champ. Jerry was the returning champion when I first played Jeopardy in February of 2004, right? How are you doing, sir?
I'm still here.
The crazy thing is Jerry was 23 when we first... No, there was a really good returning champ that morning, and we were all very scared we were going to have to play her. And then Jerry did us all a huge favor by upsetting her in the first game, and we were like, yay, we don't have to play the 4-game champ. So you are my hero, sir. Without this man, I am not here today, I'll tell you that. If I remember right, Jerry used to run the stairs at the Coliseum or something, right? Oh, and not at UCLA, it was UCLA, right? And so the whole UCLA track team was here rooting him on very rowdily. It was very intimidating. Like, you had a great cheering section. So yeah, if you go back and find my first game on YouTube, you will see Jerry Harvey, 2-game Jeopardy champion. Thank you for coming to join us today.
And I learned another pretty interesting story about Jerry that day in the audience. I found out that in that game against Ken, in the category biography subtitles, Jerry actually had the daily double. He wagered $1,800. The clue was an entrepreneur, bargain billionaire. Jerry responded, who is Woolworth. The correct response was actually Sam Walton. And it turns out that Sam Walton was actually a babysitter of Jerry's when he was a kid. So, you know, sometimes you can't imagine how intertwined these clues are. What are the chances that Jerry gets a clue about someone he actually knows, that it's a daily double, and he ends up getting it incorrect? All in all, what a wonderful thing to have Jerry here that day. Really, really special, and I think Ken definitely appreciated it.
Okay, let's get into the highlights.
Well, Amar Kakirde returned on Monday, going for his 4th win up against Tim Kiley and Ryan Alcorn. Tim and Ryan put up a fight, but after scoring on both daily doubles in Double Jeopardy, Amar was able to secure another runaway win. And once again, Allison Betts, you know, she's one of our TOC qualifiers early on this season. She gets right on Reddit to say, woohoo, Amar, also known as the Runaway King, because of course he's now up to 3 runaways. Another clue that made a bit of news, Michael, was the name the celebrity for 400. A rapper, has 2 kids with Rihanna, actor in Dope and in 2018's Monster. Amar responded, who is Jay-Z? We were, of course, going for A$AP Rocky. Ken joked, big news for Beyonce if this is true. Got a big laugh, certainly in the studio audience and also on social.
Yep, and lots of confused looks amongst, I'm sure, a large portion of our audience who perhaps this isn't their specialty area, the romance in the world of hip-hop and the culture.
Good thing we have Pop Culture Jeopardy coming.
Yeah, PCJ is what the kids are calling it, PCJ. I should say, tens of thousands of applications already for this show. It's unbelievable. Thank you all, and not too late.
Yeah.
Put together your teams, take the test, and can't wait to see how you do.
Yeah, that is exciting. Well, on Tuesday, Amar came into the game looking for his all-important 5th win to secure that spot in the TOC. He was in control early with a big lead, but Steve caught stride in Double Jeopardy, eventually taking a lead over Amar, heading into final, while Abby sat in 3rd place with 8,200. No one able to come up with the correct response, and Abby sneaks in from 3rd place with a minimal wager to get the win. Michael, we have to talk about Amar's final Jeopardy wager. He was just $1,200 behind Steve, so really only needed to wager $1,201 to cover, a potential 0 wager from Steve. He ends up wagering everything but $1. Had he wagered differently, he would have secured the win and the spot in the TOC. Tough to see this one.
Yeah, really, really tough. Not the first time, not the last time.
Nope.
That this will happen on the show, but it is part of the game.
Well, Steve, a solid second chance candidate, 18 correct responses, 2 correct daily doubles, and, leading heading into final. So certainly we'll have to see how that shakes up as the postseason begins next season. I was able to check in with Amar about his time on the Alex Trebek stage after his run came to an end. Let's take a listen. Amar Kakirde, 4-day Jeopardy champion. How does that feel?
I mean, it felt super weird while it was happening. Didn't really feel a whole lot while it was happening, but feels amazing now.
Well, you said this is not the most ideal time for you to come and make your Jeopardy run. You're finishing up with grad school, you're looking for a new job, and yet here you are. This is your moment, and you seem to still make the most of it despite it not being the best timing.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think part of it is, like, growing up, we used to watch a lot of Jeopardy, so there's definitely been a lot of practice along the way. Maybe not recently, but there's definitely been practice. I guess the muscle memory kicked in.
Well, this season we introduced Champions Wildcard. So as a 4-game champion, we know we're going to see you again. It's just a matter of, are we going to see you in Champions Wildcard, or are we going to see you in the TOC? You know, with 4 wins, there's a good chance you could be back for that tournament. What would it mean to you to compete with those elite Jeopardy players?
I think it'd be so cool, so exciting, because, I mean, to be with, like, the best, it would be an honor. It'd be so cool.
What's been the best part of this experience for you?
I think the people. Everybody has been so nice, so, like, thoughtful. Everybody's made the process so easy, from the makeup to, like, the miking to obviously the contestant team. It's been wonderful.
Well, we're so happy to hear that, and we look forward to welcoming you back at a future date. Congratulations on a great 4-day run, Umar.
Thanks so much.
Moving on to Wednesday, this was a great game by all 3 players, Sarah. After a dead even Jeopardy round, Adriana Harmeyer jumped into the lead with a 4,000. Difficult name for me to say. It's Adriana. I have to do an American accent to say that.
That
name.
is not what we sound like, Michael.
Adriana, I have to hold my nose. Adriana Harmeyer jumped into the lead with a $4,000 daily double, which she maintained heading into final. But Abby was right on her heels. Both players were correct. And Adriana became our new champion. Adriana.
You got it. Well, this was a good game, Michael. Very comparable stats from all 3 players. Abby with 17 correct, Adriana with 18, Brian with 14. After the game, Adriana told Ken that she knew the final Jeopardy response, which was Canterbury, because she had just watched the film Beckett 2 days prior, because she had a feeling that historical movies would come in handy. I love when these Slumdog Millionaire type moments happen on the show.
This is all a simulation.
Well, Adriana Harmeyer returned on Thursday and put on a show. She scored 28 correct responses and a big daily double on her way to a no-doubt runaway win. Her 18 correct responses alone in the Jeopardy round, that's the most we've seen in a single round of Jeopardy all season, tied with Wakey Eye earlier this year. She told Ken after the game that her goal coming in was just to respond to a single clue and that 1 win would have been nice, but this is fantastic. Ken asked her if the pressure is gone now that she's responded to 1 clue and, of course, got that first win, to which Adriana said, a little bit, but every clue has the same pressure behind it. Ken joked, a never-ending series of stress. That should be the new name for our show.
Yeah, it's a good name for a game show. We closed out the week with an epic battle between Adriana, Amy Yao, and Josh Moss. All 3 players came out swinging, with Amy taking a small lead into double. Adriana took back the lead after a strong start to the round, but Josh caught fire towards the end to get within $2,000 of Adriana. Entering final, Adriana was the only one correct, and she earned her 2nd win.
Yeah, this was a tough one because Adriana actually wrote Cook as her response, but then quickly crossed it out and wrote Magellan. So that was great. Josh, of course, wrote Cook and was incorrect. Big moment in this game for Adriana was the Did You Study the J Archive category. You know, this was various historical people and things that begin with the letter J. We were playing up on J Archive. Adriana ran the category. She is, of course, an archivist. Another good second chance candidate in Josh Moss. Perhaps Michael, 19 correct responses, same as Adriana. 41 attempts, one more than Adriana, and a $14,600 Coriat, which was just under Adriana's at $16,400. So we'll have to see. All right, let's see how Adriana was feeling as she headed into the weekend as a Jeopardy champion.
Well, that game swung in just a second because you had written down Cook.
Yeah.
And you seemed pretty happy with it.
I did, and then I thought about the date and realized it was off.
But you pivoted very quickly to the right answer. How'd you do it?
I don't know. The date. There were only so many people sailing at that time.
So you did not know, for example, that Cebu was in the Philippines. Did any of you?
I did know that. Yeah.
Okay, so you were working from the right part of the world at least.
Yeah.
Well, that was remarkable. You needed to get that right to win the game because Josh had made the smaller wager, which is smart. Very exciting double Jeopardy to watch. I was trying to figure out if there was enough cash left for the lead to change. Were you two aware of the dynamic there?
It's really hard not to just stare at the numbers up there. So yeah, very, very keenly aware.
As home viewers, did you know there was a separate score readout up there?
No.
Nope.
Yeah, so to the left of the game board, our players can see what their scores are. And some people just kind of tune it out and ignore it, either on purpose or just because the game is moving so fast. But there were some tough gets in that game. You're from the East Coast, Josh, but you knew that Nob Hill, San Francisco was once California Hill.
See, that's a trick. See, I'm actually from San Francisco. But I live in Boston now. I've lived in Boston for almost 10 years.
I see.
Yeah.
And there was one from Adrienne. Oh, Tony Danza. It's kind of been a while. Since, you don't look like you could have ever watched Taxi.
It has not been that long since I watched Taxi.
Are you watching Taxi in reruns?
Streaming. A few years ago. Got through a lot of television a few years ago.
Did something happen that made people...
Something gave me time to watch television, and that made the list.
A lot of old sitcoms. Mm-hmm. So Taxi's great. It holds up, right?
It does. It is, yeah.
So all your COVID Taxi viewing paid off because now you know about the oeuvre of Mr. Tony Danza.
Absolutely. Who knew?
It probably gave you the lead going into final. Maybe Tony will reach out.
Yeah, thanks, Tony Danza.
We like at the end of every show to say, thank you, Tony Danza. Adriana, congratulations. We'll see you back here on Monday. Don't be late.
Thank you.
All right. Well, in lieu of our host chat this week, Michael, let's just welcome to the pod, in person, the host of Jeopardy, Ken Jennings. Welcome, Ken.
What a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is the way to do host chat. You just have the host into chat.
This seems much easier.
And it's the perfect time to do it because we're giving you this pod on Monday, June 3rd. Of course, June 2nd, 2004, you first became known to the world of Jeopardy, your very first show 20 years ago, Ken.
20 years ago yesterday. Isn't that crazy?
It's so crazy.
The memories are really burned into my head.
Okay, let me see how well they're burned in. Do you remember the first correct response you ever gave?
The category was words that start with EPI, right?
Yep, episodes.
Right. And so it was like, what is, I'm going to guess, epigram? Epilogue?
Epilogue,
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's weird because that's, the epilogue comes last. But for me, it came first.
It came first.
And I will remember every other clue in order, so let's go.
Okay. How about your first daily double?
No idea.
All right. You wagered 2,000.
Very conservative.
Well, there wasn't James Holtzhauer's back then. Back then, people were like,
that was a huge
2,000.
wager, probably.
Whoa.
Wow. Yeah. Prefab metal sheets used to print newspapers gave us this term for standard wording, as in contracts.
Yeah, I do remember it. Feeling of relief.
Okay.
My dad's an internet intellectual property lawyer, so this was not hard for me. What is boilerplate?
Yes. And how about your first interview? Remember that one?
I do, because I had the worst time coming up with stories. But I thought it would be funny to thank the truck driver who once picked up me and my friends when we ran out of gas in the middle of the Nevada desert. So we thanked Fuzzy the truck. And Alex kind of made a little, I said, I don't know if Fuzzy's watching. And Alex got all huffy like, you don't think truck drivers watch Jeopardy?
Yes,
so
yes.
He kind of made a meal of it.
And so many stories would need to come after that. So if that's what you started out with as your first anecdote, wow, we were going to get
Are you saying that's not a classic anecdote?
It's funny. I remember years ago I went back to listen to what your first story was, and I hadn't recalled that that's the one you picked.
You were just bowled over by the star power.
I wasn't bowled over by Fuzzy.
I feel like I don't know if I picked the story. The contestant, we had just caught a mouse in our kitchen, and I thought maybe it could be a mouse story.
Did that one ever get used?
I think so.
Okay.
You never had a scary ham to talk about?
I mean, that's just an amazing story. If you have a scary ham, you should go on Jeopardy just for that alone and not respond to a single clue.
I think we're going to be inundated with contestants with scary ham stories. I've got you thought that was a scary ham story. Now I've got a scary ham story.
But it'll be all fake. It'll be astroturfing. People will be getting their own scary hams to try to get on the show.
Yeah.
You got to be an organic scary ham. I guess I feel like I had the wrong idea about contestant stories back then. I thought it had to be like a really good Oscar Wilde kind of an anecdote. And I've come to think that Jeopardy's just not the right venue for that.
Yeah, what have you come to learn about the contestant interview?
I
As
think
the host now.
There's a tendency, it's one thing I really care about as host because I'm trying to impress the viewer like me who, as a young person, we didn't have the word cringe, but I was always like, let's get back to the game. These anecdotes are not my favorite part of the show. So I'm always thinking about young Ken and trying to win him over by making that part of the show a little more charming. And luckily, I'm a person who is always in real life trying to get out of every conversation in about 20 seconds. So it's been a lifetime of preparation for this. And I think the tendency is to be like, what's a great story that's got like a twist or a turn? And you don't have time for that on Jeopardy! And also a lot of people are like, I was Employee of the Month 3 times running, like it's a resume. And that's not a good story either. Like I really think it should just be like a funny sentence that's funny on its own. It's almost like a Mad Libs thing where it's like, as long as the verb is funny and the noun is funny, it doesn't even matter. Like it says here, you have 2 skateboards and they're both from Slovenia. I mean, that's like in the real world, that's a non-story. In Jeopardy, what a fun
That's
20
great.
seconds that would be, you know?
Future contestants, if you're listening, come up with your skateboard in Slovenia
What
stories and
country-
you're set.
Which Balkan country do your skateboards come from? Go check.
How about your first Final Jeopardy? That one I know is, etched forever in your mind because it was that ruling that had the judges wanted a bit more specific, a first and a last name, we're not here today.
I do remember a bit of a pause, and I'm sure it's longer in my mind. Like if I go and look at have you looked at it lately? Is there a discernible pause?
No.
Because in my memory of it, the category is the 2000 Olympics. I think, oh boy, I love the Olympics. Like, let's hear it for Bob Costas and NBC and all the rest. And then suddenly I had this sinking realization that the last Olympics I watched was 96 in Atlanta, because the exact 2 weeks of the Sydney Games, my wife and I had been on our honeymoon. So we were in like London. I don't think I had seen a single event. And I thought, well, this is it. This is ball game. Like I gave it a shot. I defended myself well on my favorite quiz show. It's not going to be so bad. And then when the clue popped up, I realized all I had to do was name the best American track performance. And I was like, well, that's got to be Marion Jones, even though I didn't see a single race. So I write down, who is Jones? It's like Quiz Bowl training. Don't put down a first name that you might get wrong. And when Alex comes to, and I'm feeling pretty good once it turns out that Julia Lazarus next to me, who's very good, wrote down Gail Devers or something. And so I realize, oh, this is it. And it's starting to sink in. And Alex reveals my response, who is Jones? And he looks over at the judges table and I realize, who is Jones just sounds like I guessed the name.
There's a lot of Joneses.
And in my memory, there's like a real pause while Alex gets the high sign, but it sounds like it must have been a very quick nod.
I mean, I think it was a quicker nod than what it seems like it was to you.
Well, there's a lot of suspense for me in that moment. Yes, that's correct. And then I just kind of felt this great sigh of relief because you're a Jeopardy champion. Like it's almost like one game is as good as any number of games because you're either a Jeopardy champion or you're not. And I felt like now I was, and I was very happy to go home a Jeopardy champion. I didn't even care what happened in the next game.
With 27 correct responses and a Coriat of 19,600.
Coriats didn't exist back then.
I know, but now we can go back and do them.
This is like baseball analysis of the dead ball era.
We're all about the Jeopardy data now, so we got to give you some stats.
Is that a good Coriat? It's not bad, right?
It's pretty good. I think it's solid. 27 correct responses, also pretty solid.
I'm just researching the 2000 Olympics, trying to figure out if I would have dinged you for not having the first name. But I think you could have. I think that was fine. I don't think there was another Jones who excelled at the 2000 Olympics who there would have been any confusion over.
Retroactively, Marion Jones was stripped of her medals, and I was hoping that Jeopardy would not strip me of my title as a result. But it sounds like Michael is still trying.
Yeah, no. I'm just trying to figure out what would have happened had I been there in 2004. I'm not sure where I was when that happened.
I think at the time the practice was, because of course in final you can't tell a player, hey, be more specific like you can in the rest of the game. Now I think we just try to avoid those kind of clues altogether in final. But at the time I think the practice was, and make sure you're specific. If it's a case where we think a player might just write down who is Roosevelt or something. Nobody came to me and said, be very specific about which Jones. So I probably shouldn't have been so worried.
So 75 games you played initially. When you look back, is there, obviously the first win, there's nothing like that, but is there another one that stands out or a particular moment or memory or just something along the way that was one of those kind of core memories for you of that initial Jeopardy run?
I was having so much fun, like I was just getting to play Jeopardy and I knew most people had only been able to play, 0 to 5 times. And suddenly I got to just go back and do it a bunch. And I was like, this is so much fun. I love this game. I can't really believe this is happening to me. It didn't really seem, even at the time, it struck me as unfair. I'm slightly better maybe than some of these other players, but I keep getting these bites at the apple and I've got a little bit of home court advantage now and some momentum. I think my favorite game might have been I think it was right before the season hiatus. Maybe this is game 38 or 48 or something. I had never broken the one-day record. Like I kept betting to tie it because it seemed disrespectful to break it just to break it. Like when you don't need to because of any kind of in-game strategic reason. Like I'm not betting for the win. I'm just like running up stats. It didn't seem super sporting. So I never bet to beat the record. And finally I was in this one game where I already had a big lead and the category was Shakespeare. And I was like, all else being equal, I probably would make a big wager here. So I bet for an even $75K, and it was something about, name 2 of the 4 Shakespeare plays that have ghosts or something. It was pretty gettable. So the last game of the season, I broke $75K in a single game, which before James Holzhauer, that was the record. We had a big watch party at my office because they wanted to have a big celebration. So everybody is down in the lobby of the building. We get pizza and of course, I know it's going to be a really big finish, and it was exciting. The games weren't close, and I'm sure many of those other contestants are not huge fans of mine because of their Jeopardy dreams. But
I know, but I think it's good. 2 people are going to lose every day on Jeopardy, and for anyone who gets to say I lost to Ken Jennings, that's pretty cool.
Many of them are friends now, or acquaintances at least, trade emails. It is kind of a fond memory. And for a while, I think they had a Facebook group of Ken Jennings veterans kind of unified in their dislike of me, which I really supported. I love that idea.
Ken, I wonder, you just mentioned that this was all in the pre-Holzhauerian era. I wonder if one of the things that will make anyone ever beating your streak, will make that challenging, is that in the post-Holzhauerian era, the aggressive daily double wagering may make it harder to go on a very long run.
It can cut both ways, for sure. We see that in Masters and in the TOC now when players go on these all-in daily doubles. You miss one of those and you're done. And it's true that it's not that I considered that style of play and disregarded it. It's literally that it really hadn't been seriously considered. I was just playing the way people played on my TV every night. You take the clues in order, you try to bet a sensible amount on a daily double when you find one, because who in the world would ever put down $23,000 sight unseen on a trivia question? It's just the kind of silly thing you have to do in the high stakes Holzhauer era. But I do think it helped because I was very comfortable. I could just kind of play my game. It was kind of low impact. As long as a bunch of different things didn't line up against me, I could survive a lot of kinds of mistakes.
So on Tuesday, November 30th, and you lose that game, do you think in that moment someone else will do this? Did you ever think this would be a record that would hold now for 20 years, that no one would come close?
To this day, I think someone else can do it. And maybe the reason is because I was there firsthand. I saw that it can be done. I know what it feels like, and I don't feel like such a crazy outlier. I'm just a Jeopardy fan who loves the show and loves the kind of stuff that comes up on the show. I mean, there are some things that cut against it. As you say, Michael points out, the style of play is more intense now. Midway through my run, a few changes were made during the daily taping procedure just to kind of level the playing field a bit against the returning champion, which I was very much in favor of. I think rehearsal is now a little more lifelike. It's more extended. It's more like the regular game. And at that point, it worked. You could immediately see scores tightening up when we came back from hiatus in 2004. And suddenly the challengers were a lot better prepared and on their game. So that's the one thing that cuts against it. But I think it can be done. I think it's going to happen. You're going to see a 75-game winner, and I would love to be hosting for it.
Well, you played in 75 shows originally. You played subsequently in GOAT, but you have now dwarfed your contestant appearances with your appearances behind the host lectern.
The funny thing is it doesn't feel like it. Because when you're a contestant, it's also intense. Those really feel like ordeals, each one is a gladiatorial struggle, where when you're hosting...
Are you saying you're phoning it in, Ken?
That's exactly...
52 appearances. Are you phoning it in, Ken?
552, 553. Who's counting? No, I mean, I really want every game to be good, but just the fact that they do kind of keep coming, and really all you can do is just try to pronounce all the words right, hope all the interactions go well. Technically, you hope everything's okay. You don't make any bad calls. It's a demanding job, but I don't feel like I'm going to be fired after every game, which is exactly how a contestant feels.
Yeah, much better job security.
You guys have pointed this out, that it's, Jeopardy chews through 2 of the smartest people in America every night. We are just a monster for smarty pantses, because there's only one winner every game.
Well, your stats for host, let's just break those down. Michael mentioned 552 that you have hosted so far, 30 as a guest host, 110 in season 38, 171 in season 39, including that exhibition game that we did.
All right.
190 in season 40, not to mention 38 Jeopardy Masters and 13 Celebrity Jeopardy.
I do feel like I'm getting enough reps that I'm starting to figure it out. Like the last guy had over 37 years, and you could see how, he was polished from the start, but I do feel very lucky that I was given the chance to figure it out because I don't have a broadcasting background. I was not ready for this. I'm just a fan of the show, and I feel very lucky.
Yeah, but there was that intense development period on Ken Jennings versus the rest of the world. Our Comedy Central presentation that we made with each other in, when would that have been even? Like 2008, 2009?
I think it was earlier. I think it was like 2005. We can find out because we remember what happened is they wanted something to pair with The Daily Show, and instead Stephen Colbert had a pilot, and suddenly, even though they loved our little quiz show, we were out. So whatever that was, 2005 or 6 maybe.
There you go.
And the world got the Colbert Report, so it all worked out.
And we got Ken Jennings. Have you gone back to watch some of your first hosting episodes? You mentioned that you've gotten the hang of it a bit. Have you gotten back to seeing those at all?
I don't really want to. I've seen some of my games as a player, not willingly, but if I have a friend who I played against on the show who we're now very close, and his kids were like, "Dad, put on your tape," because they wanted to see me and Dad play against each other. And so I watched that, and I was like, "It's fine. I'm not very well dressed. It's just kind of off the rack computer scientist shirts and ties from JCPenney's, but the games are fine. But I don't know if I want to see those early hosting shows because I probably just look panic stricken and of course at the very beginning, Alex had just passed, so we were all kind of grieving, and the audience didn't want to see me there. I didn't want me to be there. We all just wanted Alex back. So I don't know if I'm going to look at those. Are you suggesting it would be traumatic or not?
No, I think you've come so far, but I think you started out in a pretty good position. I remember telling you on that day, Ken, you're the only person who genuinely would rather not be here than be here. You're the only one that would actually trade this opportunity for a chance to have Alex back. And I really believe that. And I think that's why you were able to do what you did in those days so soon after Alex passed.
It did just really help that I had seen him host so much up close, because then when a Jeopardy game moves very fast, as you know, and when things seem to be spinning out of control, some part of my mind was always like, well, I know what a player would do here, and I've seen what Alex would do here, and I could kind of get it back. Because if you haven't played the game, it's hard to just understand the speed everything goes at.
Well, and I love when you add in the little additional information. That was one thing I loved about Alex. Oh, goodness, no. You were thinking, oh, no, you have to go back to the Byzantine. You just add those little nuggets that I love.
People think that must be fake, but Alex was just doing that off the cuff. Oh, you must have been thinking of Henry VIII. No, this was Henry V. He would know all this stuff.
Yeah,
he was very good.
Sir Thomas Gainsborough's great rival, Sir Joshua Reynolds, as I remember you doing in one show, was beautiful.
As every viewer knows, of course. We're all thinking about maybe there should be a 10-episode Hulu miniseries about Gainsborough versus Reynolds.
Yeah, it was the original beef. That was the original rat beef.
I'm curious, do you guys think the 74 is beatable?
I think that, I've got a much shorter history on this than Sarah, but I saw a 38-episode run end on my first day on the job.
Is that right?
I saw a 40, Matamodio on my first day.
That was Michael's first day in the studio.
Matt never forgave me for it. And then a 40-episode run with Amy. And then, pretty significant runs from Matea and Ryan. And I do think that to some extent, the more aggressive playing style, not only because it gives a challenger a chance to catch up, but it forces a champion into more aggressive play, which can also, also cost them. And just looking at the test scores and the playing ability of who gets on the show and looking, I don't want to give away too much for the shows that haven't aired yet, but you just see a level of competition that just makes it. I feel like it's hard. I just feel like it's very, very hard.
That's something we haven't talked about, is how the contested pool on the whole is much better prepared for the show. I was a little lucky that I was kind of playing against well-meaning amateurs, kind of like, Olympic basketball before the Dream Team. And I was a well-meaning amateur myself, but nowadays people study up, they're prepared. They've spent years hoping for this moment, and often it shows.
I also think with your run, and not to take away from your run, but you did have, a long streak, and then you had that summer hiatus, and you had a chance to kind of, just take it in, regroup. Those tape days are grueling and long, and it's interesting to me that the people who've come the closest have come to around where you were before we took that summer hiatus. So I don't know. That's something
true.
Also that can fall into timing. We have tape days coming up that haven't aired that were 6 show tape days. There's so many other variables that feed into what is already a game that I would say is just sliding doors moments in and of itself, just based on the nature of the way the game is designed.
Those are long days. Yeah, it's a marathon for sure. And you never think that. Even if some part of you is like, boy, I'd love to win 5 today, you're not really thinking, so I should really kind of hold something back. What if I have to do this all day? Because you're really just going all out, and it's hard to maintain that till 5 p.m.
Ken, though, amazing. You've celebrated a major birthday recently, and at the same time, the 20th anniversary of your amazing run. Doing the math, that's 40% of your life. You've been a Jeopardy champion. Have been that part of your world. 2 amazing landmarks to go through, and so much more to achieve for us at Jeopardy.
It does feel like it's the meat of my life, because that was also the time when I had my kids and everything. It kind of feels like all the important part of my life was the post-Jeopardy part of it. So it's been such a blessing. I don't know how I lucked into this, but I'm very glad they accepted Who is Jones.
Right? And before we know it, I am confident that we will say you've been with Jeopardy over 50% of your life, because only more years ahead.
It won't be, I guess, another decade, right?
Yeah.
Another decade.
We can do it.
I'd love to.
I'm curious, you've now taken on the tradition of Alex, answering questions from the audience. And I know there was one I would say was like the most common question that Alex got asked. At this point, what would you say is your number one question that you've answered from the audience? Answering, might I add, as if it was the first time you ever heard it each time that it is asked by one of our audience members.
I think it's far and away, and you could tell me if you agree, it's far and away, do you prefer being the host or the contestant?
Yes.
Because that is kind of an unusual thing that nobody ever could ask Alex. And it's kind of that's the core of my Jeopardy experience. Is I was a fan, and then I was a contestant, and somehow now I'm the host, and I do have a weird viewpoint on that. And really, to me, it's the same thing. Like, when I am hosting, it's like I'm playing along. I don't get to buzz, and I don't have a score in front of me, which is good, because a lot of these players would eat my lunch. I'm a lot older now. But I kind of feel like I'm playing at that speed along with them, and I'm like, ooh, I know this one. Let's see if they get it. Oh, they did. Good. Now she gets to go again. I kind of feel like I'm at buzzer 4, and I just don't get to play.
Buzzer 4.
It's like driving in a car in the back with an imaginary steering wheel that you've got at the back.
That's right, the Maggie Simpson steering wheel.
Well, when you look ahead, do you have any host goals for yourself?
The goal is always Alex Trebek level hosting, and the goal is impossible because I don't know how he did it. You would just watch him, and he could just always get out of any sentence. If he wanted to get something done in one take, he would do it in one take. He never lost his concentration or train of thought, or his tongue never got away from him. Just an amazingly disciplined performance. And I don't think I have it in me, but the fact that I've seen it, I know that that's possible, it just bugs me. I really would love to be able to be that kind of a host. So that's always ahead of me, the illusory mirage of Trebekian perfection. Even if some part of me knows there's only one of those, one of a kind.
I know the feeling. I'm going for Friedmanian perfection the whole time producing the show. It's not easy.
It's true. That was quite an era. And Sarah, you were there for it.
I was there.
You got to see all the highlights.
I mean, I've been there for your whole time, most of Harry's time, and now I get to be part of the Davies time. I'm a lucky lady. What can I say? And thanks for celebrating our 100th podcast with us, Ken.
Sarah, you were such a party planner. You gave me a 50th birthday cake, and the whole place was decorated. And I didn't do anything for your 100th podcast. I feel like such a heel.
It's okay. You know what? When my 50th birthday comes up, I'll be expecting big things.
I don't know what the traditional 100th podcast gift is, but I am ready for your birthday
We don't
party.
either. We'll have to go ask the Smart List folks or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, more shows to host tomorrow, finishing up the season. So thanks for always being one of the best. We love having you.
It was such a pleasure. I'd come on Inside Jeopardy anytime. It's my favorite podcast.
You heard it. All right, Michael, that is it for today's show. We'll be back on Monday to cover another week of Jeopardy as Adriana Harmeyer goes for her big 4th win.
Adriana. I'm going to practice it.
Keep
See you all then.
practicing. We don't know how long she'll be around. Bye-bye.
Hey, Ken, what's that thing the kids say?
You mean smash the like, subscribe, and bell button so you'll be the first to know when we upload more great videos?
Yeah, that's it. Do that.